Hello everyone, I am Bets Golden. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, if you have been following along as I've been playing with Distress ink, you've seen me create beautiful cool backgrounds and warm backgrounds and the color of sin backgrounds. And if you know me, you know that I am not a fan of the grungy real distress or anything brown. However, I do know how to do it. And I'm going to show you how. I think part of the reason why folks like me that tend to shy away from brown is because we get brown often looks muddy, and you have to still, ironically, respect the color families when you're dealing with shades of brown. The good news is the Distress ink has gorgeous browns in it. Tim Holtz did one heck of a job. He definitely is more distressy and grungier than I watch him create and I sit there in awe of how amazing he can just do things. I'm a different type artist, but I do know how to do this when necessary, and I'm going to share that with you today. And I'm actually going to show you. Now, the beauty of this is a real nice neutral background. Brown goes with practically everything. So this is a wonderful place to start. And if you can only get a few distress inks, I would highly recommend this line. Anything with the vintage photo, walnut stain, ground espresso. I'm going to show you two other blends in which it's going to be a brown, but one's going to be a warm undertone and one's going to be a cool undertone. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I just want to lay out some vintage photo on this. Now, vintage photo is a very, very cool distress ink. It's one I think that if you enjoy that distress look and you want things to look vintagey, you really do need it in your stash. And I'm going to show you in another video, probably after I upload this one. So the one after this one, what you can do with this that will really help you in every aspect. Like this is a great ink to have on hand, and I'll tell you why when I do just some general information about distress inks and all that good jazz in the next video. All right, so I covered all of it with a little bit more emphasis on the bottom with this, and now I'm going to go in with some walnut stain and blend some of that through. Now, since I am going for a distressed grungy look, that's why I did lay out all of that vintage photo, because my undertone I don't want necessarily to be white in any areas. It's all going to play on top of this, on top of that vintage photo. So if you want a vintagey distress look, you do not want your undertone to be white, so you always cover that with your base color, which is vintage photo. And we're already getting some pretty distressed stuff going on right there. And let's see, I'm going to add in a little bit more down here. Now I'm going to go over it with the Distress Espresso. And for this, I like to concentrate on the edges, working my way in on this one, just so I can distress those edges out. If you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, I certainly hope that you consider doing so. Also, make sure you hit that notification bell, and it will show you when I have a new video coming out. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I do check them, so I will definitely try to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I will work my hardest to find out and let you know. All right, so I'm just, like I said, I just like to go around the edges with this darker color when I am doing a vintagey, grungy, distress type look. So I actually don't use my distress inks for distress, as you've probably seen in my other videos. So that's what I love about them, is they're not just for distress. Okay, so I'm going to go over this one more time with my vintage photo, like so. Blend this all out, and see, when you do that, no big deal. It blends right out because it's a water soluble. It's a blendable ink. I might get a little bit, but I can fix that with some water. So don't ever stress about that. So already that background does look pretty darn good. nice and distressed and grungy looking, but we're just gonna go ahead and add a mist of water, and we're just gonna get it to move, and look at it just come to life. I'm gonna use my heated tool to go ahead and just set this. So you like in using this instead of an embossing gun because the air is more even and I do not move my droplets of water, they stay put. Now I am not going in and lifting any of that water off because I do not necessarily want on this background that white to really shine through. However, on my other sample that I created with the same blend, I did do that, so you will be able to see that in the next sample. All right, so that is looking pretty darn good. Beautiful grungy background, right? This is the other sample that I did. We used these same colors, Vintage Photo, Walnut Stain, and Ground Espresso. I did go ahead, spray it out. Then I went over through with some big droplets of water. You can do that by just lightly pulling and it'll just give you some droplets instead of a fast mist. And then I picked up that color excess with a paper towel and it lifted the color. So instead of just moving it around, you can actually remove the color with water. So that is how this mix works. So let me show you. I'm not going to blend this one out because it's the same technique I used for these other two. But here is another color combination that you will get a beautiful distressed look with. I have to clean this up because I don't want to transfer my ink. Sorry. You will get another beautiful distressed grungy look without mud. And I know that that sounds crazy, but a lot of people, when they combine browns together, they get mud and they're like, wait, but mud is brown. Why is this ugly? Well, it's because we're not respecting our undertones. So this one is a warm undertone, meaning that there is a red base or orange base in it. It's antique linen, which has a little bit of a yellow undertone, rusty hinge, which has a little bit of the orange undertone, and then the brushed corduroy, which is a pretty true brown. But these colors all work well together to give you a beautiful warm background with your distress inks. Isn't that lovely? But can you see the difference? This one is more warm, more orangey. This one is more brown, more neutral, okay? Now, I'm going to show you how to do this with a cool undertone. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, the warm undertone makes sense. You know, brown, you think warm, you think earth, but cool, really? You can do a cool? Yes, you can. You're going to use pumice stone, which is a beautiful gray. It's a neutral gray. Iced spruce, which is a grayish blue, green, and then you're going to use forest moss, which is a gorgeous rich green, and that is going to give you a cool background like this. That is what that one looks like all blended out. Look how lovely that is. See the differences there? So think about that as you're working on your projects. You can definitely make it even though it's distressed and it's vintage and it's brown, you can make it definitely, you know, more cool. You can do a cool, you can do a warm, or you can do a neutral. And these are the color combinations that will give you exactly what you are looking for. Kind of mind-blowing, I know. It kind of blew me away when I first realized this and how beautiful this line all works together. But yeah, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you want to do a neutral, you're going to do vintage photo, walnut stain, ground espresso. This is going to go with everything. Okay, this is your safe bet. Then if you want more of a warm, distressed grungy undertone, you're going to do antique linen, rusty hinge, brush corduroy. And then if you want a beautiful cool type undertone, you're going to do pumice stone, ice spruce, and forest moss. And notice how we do not get mud on any of these. If I were to mix rusty hinge with forest moss and pumice stone, I would get mud. Antique linen, brushed corduroy, ice spruce, I would get mud. So just keep that in mind as you are working with this. And if you're unsure, then just stick to these color combinations that I have here and you will be sure fire way to success every single time. All right, you guys, I hope you join me. Again, I am going to be finishing up this little fun series that I didn't even know that I was doing until I just said that tomorrow with how to seal in your distress inks And then also the other thing that you can do with vintage photo and how I store my distress inks and why I have gone with these little ones instead of the large ones. Until next time, I'm Bets Golden. Happy crafting.